There we go. So if you read the description of this show tonight, either online or somewhere else, you'll know that we are not just playing music here for each night, we're also going to hopefully inspire and motivate you with some messages and ideas from both of our books. So Dave and I have both authored a couple, he's written 2 books and I've written 1. And I don't want to speak for him, but I can probably safely say that neither of us set out to be authors or even maybe expected to write books. But you know, we both had experiences in our lives that led us to expressing ourselves in this different way, other than we're used to, in terms of telling stories and sharing ideas. So yeah, my book is called Core Joy. And so I'm gonna invite you to explore some questions with me tonight, such as, you know, how can I bring more joy into my life? How can I make it juicier and more fulfilling and more exciting even? And also, how can we make, you know, joy or happiness more sustainable and less prone to pitfalls when things get difficult for us? So those can be some pretty big questions, and they're, like I said, there were experiences in my life that led me to exploring those types of questions. And for me, one of the experiences was a fairly significant depression that I went through that spanned, you know, almost a decade. And so, you know, it became important to me to kind of answer those kind of questions, not just for myself, but maybe if I can help others as well. So in my book, I wrote, the very first line says that, you know, at this period in time in my life that I snapped. And, you know, I snapped and felt broken for a long time, but, you know, that's kind of looking at it in hindsight. And when I was actually in the midst of that, you know, it felt more like I was, you know, just slowly getting more hopeless and sadder and even crazier sometimes, until I ended up in a psychiatrist's office, right? And I'm sure that if that hasn't happened to you, that you know someone else that it's happened to. And I was one of the very lucky ones, I think. You know, I had a really good support system, and you know, I feel like I not only survived, but learned a lot of things along the way. And you know, I feel like I learned to kind of hack my life in certain ways. Of course, I'm not perfect, but I learned to kind of hack things and bring systems that you know, made me more joyful for the long term. And I want to share some of that with people. So I'll give the necessary caveat that I'm not a psychiatrist myself, and you know, in my journey, you know, medication and therapy was super important, and I encourage everyone to, you know, access those things if they're able. One of the things, or two of the kind of gifts that medications gave me was, number one, it gave me like a space, both mentally and time-wise, to work on the things that I needed to work on. And the second one was kind of unexpected, right? Because the medications that they give you for depression make you feel kind of flat. And it was that not wanting to feel flat anymore that kind of gave me the motivation to get better. So it was a bit of a blessing that I wasn't expecting. And then one day I made a choice. And I can remember it as clear as it was yesterday. So there was a day in my kitchen that I made a choice to not succumb that darkness was before. And, you know, I carefully kind of weaned myself off of medication and, you know, kept a good eye on my self-care and all that kind of stuff, and it worked, kind of. And so I'd love to be able to say that I made a choice and was, you know, immediately living a much more joyful life, but it wasn't quite that simple. I think I needed some more systems, I guess, in my life, which we'll talk about later. But first, I want you to do a little, if you'll indulge me, to do a little bit of a guided meditation with me. Is everybody cool with like a 3 or 4 minute guided meditation? Yeah? Okay. This is a very spiritual meditation that we're going to do here. So we're going to just kind of center ourselves and take a few deep breaths and kind of, we're going to focus on this screen behind me. You can close your eyes as you're doing this and just kind of imagine the screen there. And just as you're breathing and getting just more and more relaxed, I want you to feel like your body is kind of almost floating. And up on the screen, you're going to imagine that you're seeing the dollar store. So this is going to be more spiritual for some people than others, the dollar store. Right? So just imagine the dollar store. And now, imagine with that floaty feeling that you've given yourself by relaxing, that you're floating into the picture, and you're now walking into the dollar store. So I'm picturing the one in minus. So I'm going past the rows of junk food, and then the rows of like slightly less junk food, and then the, you know, stationary aisle, and then the Christmas stuff, which is already coming out because it's past Halloween. And then finally you get back to the place where they have the kitchen stuff, so it's plates and cups. And you see this cup that's turned around, and you don't see the writing on the front. So you walk up to it, and you turn around the cup, and it says, "Choose joy." All right. You're going to come out back into ordinary consciousness now and tell me, like, how did you feel about seeing this coffee mug at Dollarama that says "Choose joy"? I don't know. When I used to see that sort of thing, I used to think that it was lame and naive and stupid, probably. And it kind of is. Choosing joy can be, you know, you could say that you're choosing joy today and you wake up and something horrible happens tomorrow and you're not joyful. Or you're just tired and cranky. So that's why I think, like, when we decide that we want to be more joyful, we do need a little bit of a system in place, and that's kind of what I try to do with people, is to help them bring a system that helps support their joy. And that's what I talk about in my book is 2 pillars, mindfulness and gratitude. And also those are the pillars, and then there's also supporting all these supporting decisions and habits that you can make to help support that. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time, because I feel like I've been rambling more than I planned to, but I will just quickly talk about those 2 pillars. So mindfulness, when you think of mindfulness, oftentimes you're thinking about things like yoga or meditation, those sorts of things, but those are like activities that we do to become more intentional and mindful. And you know, sometimes we can leave those activities and just go back to autopilot. You know what I mean? So, you know, those activities are meant to kind of give us practice for what we aim to do in our kind of daily life in terms of being mindful. But it can be easy as just checking in with yourself a few times a day. You know, how am I feeling right now? What was I just thinking this moment? You know, was I stressed out about an imagined future, or was I here present in the moment? You know, how does my body feel right now? So those are things that you can do just, you know, during the course of your day to really help you kind of tune in and be more mindfully creative of a joyful future for yourself. Gratitude, I always thought was the easy one, but sometimes it can be really difficult as well. I didn't realize that I really needed to make it a habit, right? I thought, I'm a grateful person, I don't really need to do it on a regular basis, but then when I started to do an actual practice where I was, you know, especially in the morning and at night, so first thing in the morning and last thing before bed, to focus on things that I'm grateful for. Even just very simple things like my breath, my body, you know, food, all these things. You know, before, when you, I don't know about all you folks, but when would you say your most difficult time when negative, intrusive thoughts come in? At work? At night, in the middle of the night? Yeah? Yeah. So for me, it's sometimes first thing in the morning. I get up and that's when the demons want to come in, right? So I find doing gratitude like before you go to bed kind of primes your subconscious to think about positive things. And first thing when you wake up is kind of, again, reinforcing that and staving off, you know, the negative thoughts that may creep in. So those are great. Like I said, there are, you know, who doesn't want a more joyful life, right? And oftentimes the additional decisions that we make when we choose a more joyful mindset are the things that really support us. So, and they can act kind of synergistically for us. So these are things like, you know, exercise, nutrition, pets, you know, hobbies, volunteering, all these kind of great things that we can commit to that really support us and work together. So one of the things that I happened to do during COVID lockdown days was I took up running, and I could have never expected how it supported my mental wellness. Not just because it, you know, makes me, you know, fitter or clears my mind in the morning, but it impacts a lot of other things too, like my nutritional choices and the way that I interact with friends and family too. So these things all kind of support you in your kind of joy journey. Now I know when you're just getting started, a lot of these things take discipline, so it can really help to have you know, a therapist or a coach or even an accountability partner to help you kind of get into these disciplines. But I find that, again, like I say, who wouldn't want to have a juicier life, right? And we know difficult times are going to come, and sadness are going to be part of our lives. But if we give that little bit of effort and care to ourselves, to love ourselves enough to do those things, then we'll have kind of a real core of joy that we can always kind of return to when the difficult times pass. All right. And speaking of returning, I'm going to now return to one of the things that supports my joy, and that's music.